More than 40 years have passed since Falcon Crest first poured onto American screens, and the people who brought the Channing and Gioberti families to life went through marriages that shocked the tabloids, quiet reinventions nobody saw coming, and losses that never once made the gossip columns. One of them lived with the same woman for nearly 20 years, married her at last, and lost her forever just over 2 years later. Another was married and divorced 6 times, and somehow still calls it a life well lived. A third turned her own mother into an unofficial matchmaker for her real-life husband, who happened to be playing her on-screen son. A fourth kept a secret about her own birth year for most of her 90 years on this earth, one that even her closest biographers didn't fully untangle until after she was gone. And one of them turned down a role so iconic that saying no to it may be the single most consequential career decision anyone on this list ever made. The show itself was born out of a real failure. Creator Earl Hamner, already famous for The Waltons, had lost money on his own real vineyard in Napa Valley in the 1970s and turned that very personal, very unprofitable experience into the fictional Tuscany Valley and its feuding wine dynasty. CBS scheduled Falcon Crest right after Dallas on Friday nights, and the pairing became one of the most lucrative double bills in the network's history. At the show's absolute peak in 1984, producers came astonishingly close to landing not one, but 2 of the biggest international film stars alive. Sophia Loren was set to play Angela's secret half-sister for 13 episodes, in a storyline designed to rival Dynasty's Alexis Carrington, before last-minute contract negotiations collapsed. The role went instead to her longtime professional rival, Gina Lollobrigida, who ultimately earned a Golden Globe nomination for the part. Behind that kind of glamour, though, was a cast of actors who were living far stranger, far more human stories than anything the writers ever put on paper. She was there from the very beginning, dancing through the earliest, gentlest episodes of the show before disappearing from Tuscany Valley entirely. And she went on to build one of the more unusual second careers of anyone on this list. Jamie Rose played Vicky Gioberti, the Gioberti family's spirited, dance-obsessed daughter, for the show's first 2 seasons, appearing in 44 episodes. She was just 22 years old when filming began. Jamie Rose was born on November 26, 1959, in New York City, to a father who worked as a singer and dancer, and a mother who had once performed as one of the famous Radio City Rockettes. The family relocated to Los Angeles when she was still a small child, and she began acting professionally at the age of 6 in a Kool-Aid commercial where she go-go danced alongside an animated Bugs Bunny. By the time Falcon Crest cast her as Chase and Maggie's daughter in 1981, she had already spent more than 15 years working steadily in front of cameras. Rose left the show at the start of its 3rd season in 1983, and the role of Vicky was later recast with actress Dana Sparks. She went on to headline the crime drama Lady Blue and built a long career of guest appearances across decades of American television, from Columbo and Murder, She Wrote in the 1980s to Ally McBeal, ER, and NYPD Blue in the 1990s. Her most unexpected credit came in the 1989 cult horror comedy Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town, in which a then unknown Billy Bob Thornton played her on-screen husband in one of his very first major film roles. In the years since, Jamie Rose has quietly built an entirely different kind of career. Since 2007, she has run her own acting studio in Los Angeles, taught university-level theater courses, and in 2011 published a memoir about tango, grief, and personal transformation called Shut Up and Dance. Today, in 2026, Jamie Rose is 66 years old and still teaches the next generation of actors the craft she learned as a 6-year-old go-go dancer. Before there was Angela Channing screaming at her family across the vineyard, there was the man who poured her coffee, drove her car, and said almost nothing, and somehow made every scene better for it. Chow Li-Chi played the loyal majordomo Chow Li across all 9 seasons of Falcon Crest, 227 episodes in total, without ever once being credited above the title. He was 54 years old when the show premiered in December 1981, and by the time he took the role, he had already lived a life dramatic enough to fill several biographies of its own. Chow Li-Chi was born on April 5, 1927, in Shaanxi Province, China, into a prominent political family. In 1939, When he was just 12 years old, he fled with his relatives ahead of the Japanese invasion, arriving in New York City as a refugee. He went on to earn a bachelor's degree from St. John's College in Annapolis and 2 separate master's degrees, one from New York University, another from the New School for Social Research, a level of formal education almost unheard of among the character actors of his era. Acting was almost an accident. He studied performance under the guidance of the novelist Pearl S. Buck's East and West Association, and made his screen debut in 1948 in an avant-garde short film by the experimental filmmaker Maya Deren. For the next 2 decades, he toured as a modern dancer trained in judo, aikido, and fencing, eventually becoming the dance director of a performing arts program in Dayton, Ohio, and touring the country in the original production of Flower Drum Song. He didn't move to Los Angeles until 1975, already approaching 50, with no guarantee that Hollywood had any use for him at all. 6 years later, Falcon Crest changed that completely, making him one of the first Chinese-born actors to hold a permanent recurring role on American primetime television. Off-camera, Chi was a practicing Taoist who co-founded the Taoist Sanctuary in Hollywood, later renamed the Taoist Institute. And for more than 30 consecutive years, he taught a free Saturday morning Tai Chi class at the Pacific Asia Museum in Pasadena, a tradition he kept up throughout the entire run of the show and long after it ended. He continued working steadily in film well into his 70s, appearing in Big Trouble in Little China, The Joy Luck Club, The Nutty Professor, Wedding Crashers, and The Prestige. On October 16, 2010, Chow Li-Chi died peacefully in his sleep at his home in Granada Hills, California, at the age of 83. He was survived by his widow, his daughter, and his stepson. Fans of the show from as far away as Germany wrote condolences describing a man who opened his own home to strangers who simply loved the character he played. The quiet servant of Falcon Crest, it turns out, had lived one of the fullest and most improbable lives of anyone on the call sheet. If Falcon Crest needed a character to remind viewers that not every heart in the Tuscany Valley was made of stone, that character was Emma Channing, sweet, eccentric, endlessly heartbroken, and somehow the moral center of a family built on ambition and betrayal. Margaret Ladd played her for all 9 seasons, 193 episodes, and was one of only 2 actors on the entire show to actually win a Soap Opera Digest award for the role. She was 39 years old when the series began. Margaret Ladd was born on November 8, 1942, in Providence, Rhode Island, and trained seriously for the stage long before television ever came calling. At just 22, she made her Broadway debut opposite Geraldine Page in The Great Indoors. She went on to work with some of the most respected names of the era. She appeared in Long Day's Journey into Night alongside Olympia Dukakis, studied at the Actors Studio, and became a lifetime member there. Robert Altman personally cast her in his acclaimed 1978 ensemble film, A Wedding. Years later, she shared the screen with Bette Davis and Lillian Gish in Lindsay Anderson's celebrated drama, The Whales of August, a production filmed on the harsh, windswept coast of Maine. Ladd married the playwright Lyle Kessler in December 1977, after meeting him at the Actors Studio in New York, where the two had performed together in the same play. During her years on Falcon Crest, she gave birth to twins, Catherine and Michael, a fact her husband later said directly inspired him to finally finish the second act of his celebrated play, Orphans. Unlike some of her castmates, Ladd never chased the tabloids or the talk show circuit. She balanced a 9-year primetime role with newborn twins largely out of the public eye. After the series ended in 1990, she kept working steadily in independent film and theater, appearing decades later in Woody Allen's Crisis in 6 Scenes and Amazon's Mozart in the Jungle, and most recently earning 7 separate Best Actress awards on the festival circuit for her 2019 independent film, Just in Time. Today, in 2026, Margaret Ladd is 83 years old. Decades after Emma Channing's heart was broken for what felt like the 100th time, she still lives with Kessler in Greenwich Village and still performs. Proof that the quiet, private path through Hollywood can be just as rich as the loud one. Nobody on Falcon Crest had a stranger real-life postscript than Abby Dalton. She played Julia Cumpson, Angela Channing's eldest and most tormented daughter, A woman driven by her mother's cruelty into a slow unraveling that ended with murder, imprisonment, an escape from a psychiatric hospital, and a fiery presumed death in a mountain cabin. Dalton played the role from the show's very first episode until 1986, appearing in 98 episodes. She was 49 years old when the series began, already a familiar face to American audiences from a very different kind of television. Gladys Marlene Wasden was born on August 15, 1932, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and worked as a model and a showgirl dancer at the Sands Hotel, and later the Moulin Rouge in Hollywood, before she ever set foot on a soundstage. She broke into film with the low-budget producer Roger Corman in 1957, appearing in a string of his B-movies including Teenage Doll and The Saga of the Viking Women, and found her first real fame playing Jackie Cooper's girlfriend on the Naval Hospital comedy Hennessy, a role that earned her an Emmy nomination in 1961. In a genuinely strange piece of television trivia, when The Joey Bishop Show returned for its new season on September 15, 1962, audiences saw Dalton's character already married as a newlywed. And just 2 days later, on an entirely different network, Hennessy aired its final episode, in which her other character married the show's lead. She spent years afterward as one of the most familiar faces on American game shows, a fixture of Hollywood Squares, Match Game, and the $25,000 Pyramid, and was also, off-camera, an accomplished amateur tennis player, skier, and equestrian. But the real twist in Abby Dalton's story has nothing to do with the show itself. Her real-life daughter, actress Kathleen Kinmont, was introduced by her own mother to none other than Lorenzo Lamas, the actor who played Dalton's on-screen son, Lance Cumson. Kinmont and Lamas fell in love off-camera, married in real life, in January 1989, and went on to co-star together in the action series Renegade. A mother who played the on-screen mother of her own future real-life son-in-law is the kind of coincidence no soap opera writer would have dared to invent. Dalton was married to her husband, Jack D. Smith, for 60 years, until her death. She died on November 23, 2020, in Los Angeles, following a long illness at the age of 88. Survived by her husband, 3 children, 3 grandchildren, and a great-grandson. He was the boy the whole valley watched grow into a man, literally. William R. Moses played Cole Gioberti, the earnest, idealistic son of Chase and Maggie, across the show's first 6 seasons, aging in front of the cameras from a college kid to a fully formed adult. He was just 22 years old when filming began, and the role would end up connecting his real life to one of the most famous families in American rock and roll. William Remington Moses was born on November 17, 1959, in Los Angeles, the son of actress Marion McCargo and an advertising executive. His parents divorced when he was young, and his mother remarried Republican Congressman Alfonso E. Bell Jr., who formally adopted William and his brothers. He grew up on a citrus farm in Ojai, California, with no particular plan to become an actor, until he tagged along to an agent meeting with his older brother Rick, landed a soft drink commercial for Sprite, and found his way onto Falcon Crest not long after, at first even auditioning for the role of Lance Cumson before landing the part of Cole instead. The most unexpected turn in his story came off screen. In July 1987, Moses married actress Tracy Nelson on Catalina Island, daughter of the 1950s rock and roll idol Ricky Nelson and granddaughter of the bandleader Ozzie Nelson. Just a month after their wedding, Tracy was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, and the couple delayed starting a family until she was in remission. Their daughter, Remington, was finally born in August 1992. The marriage ended in divorce in 1997, and Moses later remarried to Sarah in 2002, having 2 more daughters. After leaving Falcon Crest in 1987, he found his next major role co-starring with a young Julia Roberts in Mystic Pizza, and then spent years playing investigator Ken Molansky opposite the legendary Raymond Burr in a long-running series of Perry Mason television movies through the early 1990s. Today in 2026, William R. Moses is 66 years old and continues to act steadily in television and film. She was the most scheming, most seductive, most dangerous woman in the entire Tuscany Valley, and audiences loved to hate every second of it. Anna Alicia played vineyard heiress Melissa Agretti for 7 seasons, and her audition for the role has become one of the most talked about casting stories in the show's history. She was 25 years old when she joined the cast in 1982, replacing an earlier actress who had played the role for a single episode, and her path to Hollywood had already taken her across 2 countries and 2 very different lives. Ana Alicia Ortiz Torres was born on December 12, 1956, in Mexico City, the third of 4 children. Her father died suddenly of an aneurysm during a mountain drive when she was just 6 years old, a loss she later admitted she carried lasting guilt over, having not wanted to go to Catholic church with him earlier that same morning. Her mother relocated the family to El Paso, Texas, where Ana Alicia later won a beauty contest at 16. She won a full scholarship to Wellesley College and went on to earn a degree in drama from the University of Texas. But law school, which she also briefly attended before dropping out, lost out entirely to acting. Before Falcon Crest, she had already guest starred as a love interest of Starbuck on the original Battlestar Galactica, and appeared opposite Kenny Rogers in the television movie Coward of the County. According to accounts from the audition room itself, when she read for the role of Melissa opposite a casting director, standing in for Lorenzo Lamas, creator Earl Hamner stopped the scene mid-performance and simply said, "Thank you very much, that was wonderful." Less than an hour later, her agent called with the news that she had the part. Ana Alicia was written off the show in October 1988, in a dramatic exit that caused the ratings to drop noticeably. Producers brought her back briefly that same season, as Melissa's mysterious lookalike, Samantha Ross. In 1996, with her acting career still thriving, she made the deliberate choice to step away entirely and devote herself to raising her 2 young children, Catherine and Michael. Nearly 2 decades later, in 2015, she returned to the industry, not as an actress, but as the founder of her own production company, Quebrada Entertainment. In an unexpected footnote to her legacy, the Spanish pop singer Ana Guerra was named directly after her because Guerra's parents were devoted fans of Falcon Crest when it aired in Spain. Today in 2026, Ana Alicia is 69 years old. He arrived a season late and completely rewrote the show's balance of power the moment he did. David Selby joined Falcon Crest in 1982 as Richard Channing, the illegitimate son of Angela's ex-husband and the one adversary sharp enough to genuinely threaten her, later revealed to be her own long-lost son. He was 41 years old when he took the role, and he brought with him a level of gothic, cult favorite fame that few of his new castmates could match. David Lynn Selby was born on February 5, 1941, in Morgantown, West Virginia, the son of a carpenter. He earned both a bachelor's and a master's degree in theater from West Virginia University, and later completed a full Ph.D. in theater at Southern Illinois University, a level of academic credentialing almost unheard of among American television leading men. Long before Falcon Crest, Selby was already a genuine cult icon. From 1968 to 1971, he played Quentin Collins, a tortured, immortal werewolf on the gothic daytime serial Dark Shadows, a role so popular it briefly rivaled the show's own vampire lead in fan mail. He recorded 2 songs during that run, Quentin's theme and I Wanna Dance With You, and reprised the character decades later for a series of audio dramas. In 1979, in a decision that shaped the entire landscape of nighttime soap operas, Selby actually turned down the role of Gary Ewing on Knots Landing. The part instead went to Ted Shackelford. Selby married his wife, Claudice Chip Newman, in 1963, a marriage that has now lasted more than 60 years. The couple ran a summer children's musical theater program in New York for a decade before eventually moving to Los Angeles. Away from acting, Selby became a serious published writer, producing plays, poetry collections, memoirs, and 2 novels, along with a long-running personal fascination with Abraham Lincoln that led him to portray the president on stage at Ford's Theater in 2009 in a performance attended by President Barack Obama. After Falcon Crest ended in 1990, Selby continued working steadily for decades, appearing in The Social Network, Mad Men, and Legion, and even made a cameo appearance in Tim Burton's 2012 film adaptation of Dark Shadows, alongside several of his original castmates. Today, in 2026, David Selby has just turned 85 years old. She was the emotional anchor of the entire Gioberti family, the freelance journalist wife who supported her husband's impossible dream of reclaiming his father's vineyard and who held the family together through betrayal after betrayal. Susan Sullivan played Maggie for 8 seasons and 207 episodes, and she was 39 years old when the show began, already carrying more than a decade of steady television work behind her. Susan Michaela Sullivan was born on November 18, 1942, in New York City. The daughter of an advertising executive, she graduated from Hofstra University with a degree in drama in 1964, and, like more than a few young actresses of her era trying to make ends meet, worked for a period as a Playboy bunny at the Manhattan Club, reciting Shakespeare to herself, she later joked, while serving drinks. Her early break came opposite Dustin Hoffman on Broadway in Jimmy Shine, and she spent 5 years playing Lenore Curtin on the daytime soap Another World, before her career-defining audition for Falcon Crest. At the age of 23, in her pre-fame years, she also briefly dated Cary Grant. For years, she was also a national spokeswoman for Tylenol, a role she once joked, with characteristic candor, had paid for her beach house. Sullivan has never married, but she has been in a committed relationship with the author Connell Cowan since 1989, a partnership that has now quietly lasted well over 3 decades. Nearly 2 decades after Falcon Crest ended, she found an entirely new generation of fans playing the flamboyant actress Martha Rogers, mother of the title character, on the hit ABC series Castle, opposite Nathan Fillion from 2009 to 2016. She has stayed close friends with several of her old Falcon Crest castmates over the decades, David Selby especially, and famously pulled a prank on him mid-scene involving a bathrobe stuffed with toothpaste tubes that reportedly left the entire crew in hysterics. Today, in 2026, Susan Sullivan is 83 years old and continues to work. He was the moral center of the entire show, the Vietnam veteran and commercial airline pilot who came home to claim his late father's land and found himself locked in permanent war with his own aunt. Robert Foxworth played Chase Gioberti for 6 seasons, and he was 40 years old when the series began. But the story that would define the rest of his life had nothing to do with the vineyard at all. Robert Heath Foxworth was born on November 1st, 1941, in Houston, Texas, and trained at Carnegie Mellon University before building a serious reputation on the Washington, D.C. stage. In one of the more remarkable footnotes in television history, Foxworth was actually offered the role of J.R. Ewing on Dallas and turned it down. The part instead went to Larry Hagman, who turned it into one of the most iconic villains in television history on the very show that shared a Friday night time slot with Falcon Crest itself, back-to-back, for years. Foxworth's own love story unfolded almost entirely out of the public eye. He met actress Elizabeth Montgomery, beloved by millions as the good witch Samantha on Bewitched, and the two quietly lived together for nearly 20 years before finally marrying on January 28, 1993. Just over 2 years later, on May 18, 1995, Montgomery died of colorectal cancer at the age of 62, in the Beverly Hills home the couple had shared. Foxworth stayed by her side to the end, and at her memorial service, he personally read aloud the sympathy cards fans had sent. He later remarried to Stacey Thomas in 1998, and the two still reside together in California, long after leaving Falcon Crest, a role he departed unhappily following a contract dispute with producers over his share of a planned sabbatical. Foxworth went on to a whole second career voicing the Autobot medic Ratchet across the Transformers film franchise, and played a recurring role opposite Joanna Cassidy on HBO's acclaimed drama 6 Feet Under, reuniting with a co-star he had first worked alongside decades earlier in 1982 on Falcon Crest itself. Today, in 2026, Robert Foxworth is 84 years old. He was the only actor to appear in every single episode of Falcon Crest, all 227 of them across all 9 seasons, the spoiled, scheming, endlessly charming grandson that Angela Channing groomed to be her heir. Lorenzo Lamas was just 23 years old when the show began, and he had grown up quite literally inside the Hollywood machine that would go on to make him famous in his own right. Lorenzo Fernando Lamas was born on January 20th, 1958, in Santa Monica, California, the son of the Argentine leading man, Fernando Lamas, and the American actress Arlene Dahl. His stepmother was the swimming champion and movie star Esther Williams, who married his father when Lorenzo was just 11. Both Williams and Dahl had been close friends of Jane Wyman's for decades before Falcon Crest ever existed, meaning Lamas had, in effect, known his future on-screen grandmother since infancy. He auditioned twice and beat out 5 other actors to win the role, and during his years on the show, he also starred in the notoriously poorly received film Body Rock, which earned him a Golden Raspberry nomination for Worst Actor, though the soundtrack single he sang on it, Fools Like Me, became his only song ever to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. Lamas has been married 6 times and has 6 children. His first marriage, to model Victoria Hilbert, lasted barely a year. His third wife was his future Renegade co-star, Kathleen Kinmont, the real-life daughter of his Falcon Crest co-star Abby Dalton, who had personally introduced the two. His fourth wife was Playboy playmate Shauna Sand, with whom he had 3 daughters before their 2002 divorce. His 5th and 6th marriages followed years later, most recently to Kenna Scott in 2023, from whom he has since separated. Through it all, Lamas built an entire second act as an action star, playing bounty hunter Reno Raines on the hit syndicated series Renegade for 5 seasons, and later found an unlikely third act voicing characters on children's shows like Phineas and Ferb and Big Time Rush. When Jane Wyman died in 2007, Lamas released a public statement calling her, after his own parents, the single most influential person of his young career. Today in 2026, Lorenzo Lamas is 68 years old and works as a helicopter tour pilot in New York City between acting jobs. And finally, her. The single woman without whom Falcon Crest simply would not have existed. Jane Wyman was already a legend when the show began. An Academy Award winner, the first wife of a man who would become President of the United States, and by 1981, someone many assumed had nothing left to prove. She was 64 years old when the series premiered, and the role of tyrannical matriarch Angela Channing became, against every expectation, the single most watched performance of her entire career. Sarah Jane Mayfield was born on January 5, 1917, in St. Joseph, Missouri. Her father died of pneumonia when she was a small child, and she was raised by foster parents whose surname, Folks, she quietly used for years before reinventing herself in Hollywood as Jane Wyman. For decades afterward, even close biographers believed she had been born in 1914, a birth year Wyman herself invented and maintained for most of her adult life, reportedly to allow her to work legally as a minor, breaking into the industry as a teenage radio singer and Hollywood chorus dancer. The truth about her real birth year only became fully clear after her death, when her own official website confirmed it publicly. Long before Falcon Crest, Wyman had already won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1948 for Johnny Belinda, playing a deaf rape victim in one of the most demanding dramatic roles of her era, after breaking through 3 years earlier as an alcoholic's girlfriend in The Lost Weekend. And long before that, she had been married to a young actor named Ronald Reagan from 1940 to 1948. The marriage produced a daughter, Maureen, and ended in the aftermath of the couple losing a second daughter, Christine, who died the day after her premature birth in 1947. Wyman remains, to this day, the only person in American history to have both won an Academy Award and been married to a future president of the United States. When producers cast her as Angela Channing, creator Earl Hamner openly admitted the plan was to soften what could easily have become a female clone of Dallas villain J.R. Ewing. Wyman insisted from the start that Angela also be allowed to show love, not just cruelty, and later won a Golden Globe for the role in 1984. Her final years on the show were shadowed by serious illness. Abdominal surgery sidelined her briefly in 1986, and by the 9th and final season, she had collapsed on set due to complications from diabetes and a liver condition, with doctors urging her to stop working entirely. Against medical advice, Wyman returned for the final 3 episodes anyway, personally writing her own closing monologue for the series finale. She was married twice more after Reagan, both times to the bandleader Fred Karger. They wed, divorced, remarried, and divorced again, and she never remarried after that, having converted to Catholicism in 1953. After Falcon Crest ended, she made one guest appearance on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and then retired from acting almost completely, becoming something of a recluse in her final years, though she did attend the funeral of her daughter Maureen in 2001. On September 10, 2007, Jane Wyman died of natural causes at her home in Rancho Mirage, California, at the age of 90. The woman who spent a lifetime shaving years off her own age had, in the end, outlived nearly everyone who might have contradicted her. There it is, an entire vineyard's worth of lives that existed just beyond the cameras of Falcon Crest, marriages that connected on-screen families in ways no writer could have planned, quiet decades of teaching, writing, and stagecraft behind a handful of unforgettable performances, a love story cut tragically short, and one that lasted more than 60 years, a career built and rebuilt more than once, and a woman who reinvented herself so completely that even her own birth year became part of the performance. Some of them walked away from Hollywood entirely and never looked back. Others are still working today, more than 4 decades after Angela Channing first looked out over her vineyard and decided nothing on this earth would take it from her. What began as a network's attempt to chase the success of Dallas ended up outliving most of its imitators, in no small part because the people playing these larger-than-life characters were carrying entire, complicated lives of their own, just off camera. Lives that, as it turns out, were every bit as dramatic as anything the writers dared to put on the page. Tell us in the comments, which of these stories surprised you most, and where in the world are you watching from today? If you want to keep finding the real stories behind the classic shows and the people who created them, subscribe to this channel and ring the bell. Every week, we go past the legend and into the life.